The government has now put out the methodology for commercial coal mining. This paves the way for private companies, including foreign players, to bid for mines earmarked for commercial mining. In keeping with the centre's stated objective, the process will now follow an ascending pattern, with bidders having to quote a price they're willing to pay to individual state governments for every ton sold. While there is no cap on production, miners will have to extract at least 50% of the quoted amount. It can't fall below 75% in case the tender is for a 5-year period. The total outgo for the state will also be revised annually on the wholesale price index, or the WPI, of coal. But the bigger question is whether private players are indeed going to be interested in applying for these licenses. Joining us to talk about that is industry veteran Partha Bhattacharya, former chairman Coal India. Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you so much for joining us. We spoke the last time when the commercial coal mining licenses, or at least the rules, were opened up. Now we have the modalities. What have you made of this? Does this seem attractive enough for private sector, foreign players to participate in these auctions?
See, to my understanding, the modalities are still evolving. They are not yet freezed completely. Some contour has come up, something is being discussed, talked about. But I think it will take a while before they come to a final conclusion, because there's lots of debate going on. See, the first point is that the commercial mining is a completely different ballgame as compared to mining by the captive end users. We had commercial mining in the past, and that was the pre-nationalization days. And some of the problems of mining at that time actually led to nationalization. So we have to ensure that we don't come up with rules that exposes the country to the risk of revisiting the ills of pre-nationalization era. You know, if I am understood clearly. So there are certain things that need to be still focused on. Whether we should be actually opening up commercial mining to even smaller blocks, smaller mines, or should we restrict it to large mines where you can have mining companies of stature who are who have necessary core competence and experience of doing mining with best practices. There are not too many within the country, because coal mining has been largely handled by Coal India Limited. So we don't have too many private players with that kind of expertise. So opening up, whether it needs to be done globally, that's a question. If it needs to be done globally, then what kind of mine size is relevant for global players to take interest? That's again an important part. So all these things have to be comprehensively debated, and I believe that sort of a committee is looking into all these things.
Okay.
And it may take a while before final sort of procedure emerges.
Okay, just one point is specifically about the clause of production flexibility, and I'm reading this. It says that it shouldn't fall below 50% of the plan, and at least 70% is produced at the end of the 5 years. Do you find these clauses reasonable and feasible for potential players to participate?
See, these clauses are okay. I mean, we need to have certain amount of flexibility, but not give up the complete flexibility. It has to be somewhere in between. But I think even more important than these terms and conditions of auction is to have a system where we focus on capability and competence of the player and make that a decision criteria. In the overall evaluation process, it should not be tilted on only the price that is being offered. It should have a higher weightage on competence, because that's very important. See, we have done mining completely. I mean, it was completely a government sector, and Coal India was formed right at the beginning of nationalization. So we have done mining in a reasonably appropriate manner.
Right.
But the global standards are far, far better. Let us put it this way. Particularly in the area of underground mining, mechanized underground mining, I think we have not gone anywhere. We have actually slipped somewhat. So that is an area where we should try to take this opportunity and create a matured mining industry, right, where we have the best practices in mining as well as in environment management, and imbibe those practices, and also make Coal India compete with the global mining companies. So in order to make that happen, I mean, that is the desired objective. If that objective is fulfilled, then everything else will fall through. You will have ample coal, you will have competition, you will have costs driving competition, etc., etc. But in order to make that happen, you need to have the right players. So you need to incentivize the right players with scale. I understand that, yes, 50% production, that's some sort of a leeway being given.
Right.
But a company with scale will not bother about these conditions. He will definitely operate at 110%, if not 100.
Okay.
So we need to create those kind of conditions which induces the best players in the game globally to come in. Okay. And give a competition or a run for the money to Coal India.
Okay. I have one final question, sir, and this is with respect to the auction process per se. The government, I remember during the press conference, went on record to say revenue maximization is not the key objective of this process. How do you think this floor price is going to be arrived at? And as an experienced veteran in this space, how do you think this auction process really will work out?
See, basically, to arrive at the floor price, you have one standard benchmark, which is the notified price of Coal India.
Which is way back.
Because in the absence of
this is way back in 2014.
Whatever is the last notified price.
Okay.
You can adopt that as a base. That is one point. But the point is that Coal India prices does not necessarily reflect market prices. Okay. See, because India today is one of the large coal importing countries of the world. So we have experience of international coal, global coal.
Okay.
And therefore, from that context, it feels since coal is a traded commodity, we should actually create a benchmark linked to the international prices and use that as the sort of a benchmark on which we can ask for discounts or whatever. Instead of using Coal India prices, of course, in the absence of that kind of an index, you can use Coal India prices, but Coal India prices normally may not always link to the international prices. They do pricing in a different manner.
Sure.
So there are pitfalls on both sides.
Sure.
Coal India prices is one index. In my mind, a better index is to create an index based on import parity price.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, coal is a commodity. And international prices matter.
Okay. Okay, so we leave it there. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Mr. Bhattacharya.